Here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to add runes to your game in Roblox Studio. This is a kind of a continuation to my incremental kit video. If you want, you could watch that. I'll link it below. Um, but I'm going to show you how to just add it broadly, and then maybe I'll show you how to add it to the kit. But if not, you can always join the Discord. If you don't know how, you just join the Discord server and you can ask there, which I'll link below, or you can just ask in the comments. But I suggest just join the Discord if you can. Not ask in the comments, I'll try to help you there. Either way, just get out of the way. If you want to get the incremental case linked below, you can just put it in here. It already comes with runes, but if you want to make your own, I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to replicate storage, and we're going to make a module script. So you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it runes. This is just the basic template, and just tab that in. So the way that I do it is I first do the rune type. So let's just call this like starter rune. I'm going to try to keep it exactly how I have it in the kit as well, so that you can look and compare. But either way, so let's do that. Put a comma there just because why not? Then I like to do the cost, which let's just say it's 100, and I like to specify what stat it's going to cost. So let's just say it's going to cost cash, assuming that we have that. Yeah. So we got the data out of the way. You can have as much as you want. This is just what I'm going to do. This is all you need to do, really. But then you want to do actual runes. So let's make common rune. Make that a table here. And you only need to do two things, really. You can do rarity, or you have to do rarity. If I could spell. Let's say that this is a 70% chance of happening, comma, and you can specify the boost. Now, in my kit, I have it be specific, where I do like stat equals 4, so you can specify what the boost is. But because this is just a simple tutorial, let's just subject it just a boost of 2. And really, it shouldn't matter. Like I could do this, and it should still work. And you can specify the boost however you want. Like you go into the multiplier script, you just be like times 0.15 if you want to boost by that much, times point, whatever. So for now, let's just do it this way. It's really easy to do it the other way anyway. I'm sure you can figure out, or you can just look at the kit and see how I did it there. Let's make another one. Let's call it rare. Just copy this, save some time. Let's make the rarity 30. Now, it adds up to 100. That's perfect. Like usually you want it to add to 100, but it doesn't have to, and I'll show you why in a second. Actually, I'll show you why right now. The reason why is because we're going to make a function. Let's just define the function as, let's just say luck sum. Or actually, sorry, I'll say like rarity sum. What this is going to do is, this is going to tell us what the total rarity is, so it can help us with our logic. So you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to worry about adding to 100. It's not what, it won't 100% mean that, let's say, we're not going to keep this, but let's just say I have it like that. It's going to be out of 110. It doesn't mean that it's exactly a 10% chance, but it's pretty close. So you're sacrificing accuracy for basically it being easier to understand. And since if you're watching this, you're probably new. If you want to play around with the math, go ahead. But I'm just gonna keep it simple. But anyway, let's carry on. So all we're gonna do in this, let's also specify a parameter, which is gonna be, say, rune, and that's gonna be a string. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do this either. I'm just going to do it so you know. Basically, this means that it's going to take in an input of a string, and it's going to output a number. That's pretty much all it's saying. Anyway, so let's define a variable total. Just call it total, capitalized, equals 0. And we're just going to do a simple loop. So for I, comma v, for I, comma v in runes, and we specify the rune name, which is going to be starter. Do. Now, if you notice, we have these here. So we're just going to have to do a simple if statement. So if the type of v is not equal to, actually, we'll do this, is equal to table, then. Now, we could do it this way. However, there's a better way to do this. And I don't know if you know this, but if there's a function called continue or a thing called continue. Basically, it just skips the loop, so it moves on. All we have to do is just reverse the logic. So if it's not a table or it's not this, meaning if it's cost or stack cost, it's going to skip the loop and move on. This way, it's not trying to find data from this, which is impossible because it's not a table. That's out of the way. If you get a red line, make sure it's a lowercase t because it has to be lowercase. And then all we have to do is just do total plus equals rune.rarity. Or sorry, v.rarity, I'm sorry. v.rarity, which is defined here. I'll keep it separate. And then at the end, you just return total. Now we have to make our last function, or maybe second to last function, but for now, we'll make it our last. It has to be a normal function. Local function means that it's only in the script. You can't call on it. It also runs faster, so try to do as many local scripts as you can. So this function is going to be called roll, but because it's in the runes module, we have to do runes.roll. You don't have to do it with this because we're not calling on this outside of it. So runes.roll, and once again, we're going to do rune, which is going to be a string, and this is going to output a string. Let's do a space there. Okay. This may be a little complicated, but just stay with me here. So we have to define total equal to rarity sum, which is what we just made, of rune, which we already did. That's simple. We're just making this easy for us. And then let's define a random number as ran, and set that equal to math.random, which you probably should know, from 1 to the total. And we're going to divide this number by our luck modifier, which I'll talk to you how to do later. So we're just going to leave that as a comment for now. Ignore the AI, it's trying to do stuff. Let's define a variable c. This is for cumulative, for the logic. It's just necessary. And then we're going to do another loop. So we can actually copy this right here. Rock, comma, v, and runes, rune, do. Once again, let's copy this to make sure we're doing it with the table. And now we're going to do c plus equals v.rarity. We're going to make a new line. And we're going to make a statement where if ran is less than or equal to c, which is our cumulative rarity, then we're going to return I. I being the rune name. I meant to capitalize that. Now, if you're like me and you like one-line if statements, you can subject this to one line. I'm going to leave it as this because I know you guys are familiar with that. Sorry, I'm stupid. So I'm just going to leave it as this for now. So yeah, that's our role system. Now let's check if this works. So let's go into starter player scripts. Let's just add a local script. This is just a test. And I'm sure you know how to require a function, but if not, or require a module. If not, I'll show you how. Let's just define replicated storage as game get service replicated storage. You can do game dot replicated storage. Don't know why it's not working. There we go. And now let's just define our module. So let's just call it runes is equal to require, because that's how you gather a module. Replicated storage dot modules. You may not have that folder. I do, as you can see right here. I just do it for organization. You don't have to do it. It doesn't matter. That runes. And now all we have to do is let's just print runes.roll. Let's choose the rune that we want to print. Let's just do starter. And let's hit play. As you can see, I got a common. So let's just do a simple loop to see if the logic works. So for I equals 1, comma, let's just do 25, do. This is going to do it 20 times, or 25 times. As you can see, it seems like it makes sense. Common should happen 3 times more than a rare, which it checks out. Perfect. So let me show you how to do modifiers and luck and all that good stuff. So make another module, or you can do it in there. I prefer making another module. So let's do this. Let's just call it rune attributes. It doesn't have to be that. I'm just calling it that. And we'll do the same here. Leave this as that. And you're just going to define a bunch of functions. So we want we want 2. Because I'm not going to get into rune speed because it doesn't really matter. If you want, I can just give you the code in my server. But let's just focus on luck and bulk. Bulk just means you can open as many as you want. Anyway, so let's just define a function. Rune attributes dot luck. Let's just say rune luck, just so it's more specific. We're going to press enter. And set local multi is equal to 1. Return multi. What this is saying is this is getting our rune luck, and you're gonna put your code here. So let's say like this is gonna be gibberish, but assume that you have like some stat that multiplies it by something. What you do is you'd be like multi times equals stat, and that would be that. Let's just, for argument's sake, multiply our luck by 1.5. Can't spell, apparently. Let's do the same for rune bulk. We're going to do it a little bit differently. All I'm going to do is just do local bulk equals 0. Actually, no, I'll do 1. Can't spell. I'm sorry. We're just going to return bulk. And let's say that we have a modifier that gives us 1 extra bulk. So bulk plus equals 1. How do we apply that to this? Well, this is going to be simple. Let's require a function. Let's just call it rune at, save some time. Require game .rotate storage .modules .runes for rune attributes. And let's just, and now remember how I said that we have to divide our rune luck? So it's right here. So let's do divided by rune attributes dot, and as you can see right here, rune luck. And that's it. And now if we run that, it shouldn't error. Yeah, and now you can see we're getting rares a lot more common, a lot more times now. So that's rune luck. Now how do we actually open the rune? So there's 2 ways. You can also do how I did it, but that doesn't make sense. I'm going to show you how to actually do it with your data. So I have a data store here. It's in my kit. If you want it, I'll link it. I won't link it, but it's in the Discord server. You can just ask for it. This is just an example. So let's add our 2 runes, just because. Common and rare. If you want to pause the video and do this exact thing, you can. The data store is a big, complex thing. So however your data store works, do this. If not, this is in the kit. You can just edit it yourself. You could steal the whole thing. I don't care. Just give me credit. As you can see at the top, just leave that there. I don't care. Anyway. Now we're going to need to go into remote connections, and I'll explain why we have to do this. I'm sure you know, you server to client, client to server, you have to fire a remote event in order for data to work. So we need a remote event. This is going to look very confusing. I have a lot of stuff that I don't even need. Let's just delete that. Rune attributes. So that should be, these are just the same requires that we already made. Variables, we don't need remotes folder. Just confusing for you guys. I'm sorry that I left that there. Actually, I will keep that there. So in your replicated storage, I have a folder. You don't need it, but you have to make a remote event. I prefer doing it in a folder. And let's just name it rune open. Let's delete this. This is just debounces. I already have a rune debounce. You don't need that. Well, you do need them, but you can just copy them. It's fine. Anyway, so what you need to do is you do remotes folder dot rune open dot on server event :connect function, define your player, and let's assume that we're getting an input of rune name, which is a string. Also, if you want, you can do player here. Cool. So now let's, for the way that my data store works is I do it this way. I do local data equals replicated storage dot data :weight or child player dot name and local player data equals data colon wait for child. Or not even player data. Sorry, I do local runes equals data colon wait for child runes. I think I got that right. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But I'll figure that out later. I'm not gonna do the debounces because I don't care about that and it's not important. You do it differently. I'm sure you will do it differently, and it's in the example anyway. I just don't feel like typing it out because I'm lazy. Anyway, so yeah, we have our runes module. All we have to do is, well, we have to do two things. So let's make a fake stats folder. And let's just say it's cash. Just make the stats, and let's just set our starting amount to 10,000, so that it's easier for me. You don't have to do that. And let's just make an if statement. If, actually, let's just do this first. So remember how I made stat cost a thing? Let's keep this organized up here. Stat cost right here. All you have to do is define your stats. What you have to do is let's see that out. Let's just do like a divider here, just so that you guys can see the difference in what I'm doing. So let's define stat cost again, just so we're not messing with a bunch of stuff. It's fine to have a lot of variables because it just shows you're being organized. All you have to do is name this rune. Is do runes colon rune, which this is gonna assume it's starter dot stat cost. And let's do the same with cost. Equals runes dot rune dot cost. So now all we have to do is make an if statement where if this player's stats bracket means it's just a string, you can type all that. And since our stat cost is going to be cash, and our cost is going to be 100, if the stats folder with our data, stat cost, assuming that we're using it, dot value, obviously because we're working in data, is greater than or equal to cost, then, and we're going to do actually we're going to do this first, runes dot roll, why is it not working? Oh, that's why. Let's call this runes module. I'm sorry. I should have done that first, because we're working with runes right here. So let's just do that. And this will make more sense. So runes module dot roll. We're going to do rune, obviously. Or let's define this as local chosen rune is equal to runes module dot roll. Because remember, this output's a string. So let's just say, for argument's sake, this will become a common rune. Now, cool, we rolled it, but it didn't do anything to our data. So all you have to do is just do runes colon, not colon, bracket chosen rune dot value plus equals 1. So that should work. Let's test it out. In our local script, we're going to delete this. And all we have to do is do replicate storage dot remotes dot rune open. In your case, it'll probably be rs dot rune open colon fire server and let's just fire start over. Let's see if that works. Well, we don't know if it works, but if you go into your players, or sorry, if you go into replicate storage data here, runes common. For me, it's 43. For you, it's gonna be 1 because it will work. I'm gonna reset my rune value. This is how you edit your data, by the way. You just switch the server. Set all of this to 0. Is it gonna work? Whatever. I don't know why I didn't do it. It is everything except common. So we're gonna hit play again. Data, Sheath Creeper, runes, 44. So it works. Beautiful. Now all you have to do to make the bulk work is just make a loop. For I equals 1, comma, you're going to do rune attributes dot rune bulk do, and put all this in here, and you're done. Let's assume. Actually, all we have to do is this. We can do print chosen rune dot dot added. Comment added. One final test just to make sure it works. If my game would let me. Let's just do 20. Boom. It works. That's how you do runes. Hope you guys enjoyed. If it's helpful, leave a comment. Everything's linked below. See y'all later. Goodbye.